I have a very low filter or a very low bar for buying games that are mini-game collections or micro-game collections or macro-game collections. An Arcade Game Zone I spotted on sale, picked it up on PS5. It has reviewed pretty poorly across the board, but I'm here to say it's not quite as terrible as what people make it out to be, although I completely agree this is not a top-tier game in any way, shape or form. It is a 1 to 4 player, local multiplayer only minigame collection. It is split off into 2 main parts. The first part is what's called a games room, and this reminds me of going to Southend-on-Sea and attacking all of their arcades. And I did this quite a lot as a child, and occasionally still get to do it as an adult. But this contains minigames that are things like darts, ball hop, air hockey, Scare-Lectrics racing, all of those kind of Village Fate style games that remind me very specifically of Wii U Shovelware, where you would use the left analog stick or your nunchuck to go and aim for something, and then you'd press and hold a button for the power and then let go and see what happens. Quite a lot of the control schemes fall into that move to aim, press and hold a button for power and let go mechanic, or pressing and holding and letting go of things. And so they all kind of feel quite similar from a control perspective, which is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because if you've got lots of family members that maybe don't game very often, it's kind of easy to pick up and play, but it does mean that each minigame starts to kind of merge together into one big schlop because there's no real control distinction between them. And the physics is a bit wonky as well, where sometimes actually just smashing everything at full power and hoping for the best sometimes works better than actually trying to be good at it. Outside of that, the second half of the game is then an arcade cabinet, which tries to emulate classic arcade games from the 80s and 90s. So you'll find variations of Frogger and a Q*bert and a Tetris and a Breakout, and then you've got things like Asteroids in there, an Endless Runner, a couple of Snake games, all of those kind of things. But whilst it boasts that it's going to have like over 30 of these, when you get into them, quite a few are bunched into like 4 variations of the same type of game. So you'll have slightly different variations of Asteroids, for example, or an Endless Runner, but one's like got an extra kind of bell and whistle to it that means that you have to think of slightly something else as well as just running and avoiding objects. Snake has various varieties where it's the same Snake game, but you're doing something slightly different for your objective to stay in the game longer. Now, all of these games are playable for up to 4 players at the same time, but what this game does lack is that kind of competitive who's winning in this gaming session, Ray. And I wish that there was more made of that, because it does feel like you're just rolling around choosing which minigame to play next, and not enough fanfare is given to actually structuring a game to feel like you're having a competitive battle with the other players on your couch. The other thing that Arcade Game Zone really suffers from is that because it's borrowing so much from established games and franchises and series, but doesn't quite deliver them nearly as well as the originals, and you kind of get that because this is like a smashing together of loads of different games under one umbrella. It does just feel like I've bought the Temu version of loads of different other games and smashed them all together, and like, it has to be cheap for this to work, and it kind of has now become cheap over time, and so I don't regret my purchase necessarily. But yeah, this is one of those things where the controls don't quite work right, the graphics are a bit fuzzy and a bit low rent, and the variations on the theme don't feel particularly exciting enough to really hold your attention for too long. And so whilst I wouldn't say there's anything particularly wrong with Arcade Game Zone, it certainly lacks that individuality, that moorish addiction that the best minigame collection series have, and so this one is for a deep sale only. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.